All right, Gary. Now I want to move on. We've talked in the the sort of rise of Star, and then one thing that you notice about Ben before the end of the decade, he's bought the top pitches on racecourses, and everybody else is sort of saying the game's gone, the on-course game's finished. Why did he do that?
Well, you had the opinion that the top picks really hold their value, and in effect, they increase in value in the long term. And I think that's probably been borne out. I'm not an expert in these things, but I'd say so. And also that he realised that if you can stand up and be original in your approach and attract the proper business to your pitch, etc., you can make a noise from a marketing point of view, and that's been borne out by what he's done at the major festival meetings. So it was a really, really good marketing tool on top of that. And I think that it really goes hand in hand with our ethos as we are a racing firm primarily, although other sports are coming up alongside that now. And it was really borne out by the fact that these pitches at Cheltenham, Ascot, Aintree, Goodwood, and especially on top of that, the Grand Derby were not only profitable but really, really, really good marketing tools, and they lent to the business really well.
Something we haven't covered, and it's not in your question, so don't hate me. But at some point during this time, you've gone from being an employee to being Ben's sort of right-hand man, trusted, confidant, rock, whatever you want to call it. I mean, what sort of point did that just naturally happen?
Yeah, I think it probably did, actually. I couldn't tell you a timeline. I guess that I rose through the ranks by default on a few occasions, as in there was no one else there, so I had to step in. But then, eventually you get to know someone so well by spending that amount of time with them, you actually get to understand their mindset very well. And I think that over the years, that has really grown and cemented. But I couldn't tell you exactly when that role. And I think he obviously coined that term. It's not exactly a job role, is it, right hand man? But it's something that is probably quite accurate in the fact that I've just sat there and made that something for myself, almost. To be that conduit between himself and the rest of the business. Yeah.
Would he, for something like a decision about the racecourse pitches, would he sort of say to you, Gary, what do you think? Or would he?
No, he would, and he wouldn't necessarily ignore it, even though he'd much better taking the opinion of people that are expert in that market. But I think probably more on balancing the finances, how can that money be best spent? Is that the best area to go into? And is the deal right? And manpower, all those sorts of things, is manageable, because he probably would have bought 50 pitches if they'd all been profit making, and then would work out how to man them after we bought. But it's something that I would have been involved in on a different sort of operational level, rather than is this a good buy, shall we say?
Yeah, and the other thing that he's bucked the trend with, of course, is the betting shops. Yeah. Everybody, they're selling them wholesale, but Ben is sort of buying them and buying them and buying them. So, why is it he's always bucking a trend, but he seems to make it successful?
Yeah, I think that in the curve of things, when people, going back to the sort of game's gone attitude, when people actually start to back out of markets, there's a point at which they do it too quickly and far too energetically, and we've sort of seen that recently, where the focus of the bigger firms has, in my view, has gone off things like retail, and the mergers have been in our favour. They're all looking internationally, looking abroad at the US and other jurisdictions, and I think that overall the quality out there within the retail estate has diminished, and but it doesn't mean that there's no opportunity. And if you can cherry pick and accurately, and this is something we are very good at, and you can accurately map an area where you believe you should be attacking the market. We've done that successfully, and I think that the ethos that goes alongside the rest of the business in terms of service applies even more so to retail. And we've got a brilliant team, and all the staff are well trained. They know exactly what they're talking about, and they're well versed. And that's borne out by the fact of James Maloney and Mayfair winning Betting Shop Manager of the Year, which was a great landmark. And on top of that, that sort of goes through the ethos of enabling and promoting people in the right places, because I hope James doesn't mind me saying that he probably didn't think a few years ago he'd be sat in front of the cameras, being interviewed by Nick Luck, and in his, I don't know how old he is, probably 40s. He's got a real sort of second wind, and it's great to see.
Right, now we've got to bring it down to earth again now a bit, because people have been watching this, hearing how clever Ben and you have been with building this business up.
Clever.
Let's have a talk about Star Plumbing, Star Antiques, Star Cars. I mean, you've had, from what I've been told, there's quite a few more of those with a star prefix that have been efforts to diversify and have, is it fair to say, failed miserably?
Oh, more than fair. Yeah, absolutely tanked. We would be saying they've been very expensive.
Did he run all those by you as well before?
Yeah. No, look, don't think I was not part of it. I'm hands up, But I think you learn by your mistakes, they say, don't they? And we've made some. God, we made some. But I think that applying the logic of what we do within bookmaking and just saying, oh, don't worry, we can do that with car loans, antiques, cleaning companies, plumbing companies, and whatever else I won't mention, doesn't actually work. And you actually do have to have some knowledge of the market that you're looking at, and not just go that this is a margin, we'll apply that margin and away we go. But we certainly have had some disasters in our time.
Well, we all know that people do like to hear about somebody's lucky ITV7 going down by a short head in the last leg. So, of all the failures, which was the most memorable?
I can't tell you that. That's information that will remain private until the Ben Keith memoir comes out, and I'll let him inform you of that particular detail, because
that's the first one you've ducked, Gary.
I couldn't possibly say.
Now, luckily, there are plenty of successful non-betting star companies. You've got Star, the Star Property and all that stuff. Yeah. I mean, what changed from them all failing to them all succeeding?
I think that people, putting people in the right place. I think there are probably two diversifications. One into not the bookmaking side, but the technology side of the business. That when we went live with a website in 2018, and that was a significant mark for us. That meant that we were playing in the big boys markets, exposing our prices, having it on. I know plenty of cynics that said that we couldn't do that, but we did. And having the IP of that, the value, the IP in that platform, in that technology business, is really important to us. And it's been a long, hard journey, but it's been worth every penny, and it's something that has stood us in good stead, because that's allowed us to be masters of our own destiny, and we've chosen to basically, in everything that we've done, we've owned it, and rather than having a small bit of a massive pie, we've chosen to keep the whole pie to ourselves, which is probably a good Ben Keith analogy. But on top of that, we got a really good guy in place on the property side that meant that we weren't in charge, which was a good thing. But we realised that to balance risk in the bookmaking, bricks and mortar are a really, really good option, and you can apply yield to things in the same way that you can apply margin. And Max on the property side has built a significant business, and that again it's got several verticals where we've got auctions, law, we've got construction, we've got all areas that then seed into things like the retail market that we're in, allows us to control the building of all the new and refit of all the new shops, etc. So it sort of fitted in nicely, nice little niche. But I think the fact is, within these things, it's about the people, and we've got the people in the right places. That's why it worked.
Okay, now you've, from a business point of view, you've got a reputation for being quite hard. Now, has that been for the benefit of Ben? Are you like his deflection? Or is it for the benefit of the people you've been working with? Or is it just the way you have to be when you're dealing in big business?
I'd like to dispute the hard
I've got it on good authority.
Really? Right, okay. Well, I think I'm fair. I think that's definitely the case. I probably the person I'm hardest on is Ben, definitely. I give him a hard time because I have to. But I think that, you know, it's the case that if you're not hard bitten in this business, you never will be. And you have to, you know, really filter through a lot of the stuff that you do to try and find people that have got, you know, genuinely your best wishes at heart. So yeah, I'm a bit of a cynic, really. I've been born out of that.
Well, you might like this other description of you a bit better. Your unflappability. Now, is that true?
No.
So you just give the impression that you're not flapping when inside you're.
Yeah, the swan. Below the surface, I'm panicking like fury, and I've basically I think the last 15 years have been fueled by fear, fear of going skint, fear of failure, and fear of having to do a real job, I suppose, because it's not really. But it's been a bit, you know, bizarre in places. But I think that you know, my driver is one of. I wake up each morning and I'm trying to solve problems and I'm trying to keep going, you know. So the calm demeanour is definitely a disguise. And
it's just assuming that I mean, you've been on this sort of business journey with Ben.
Yeah.
For the want of I don't really want to use these modern terminologies, but you come up with Ben. So is it just sort of just naturally gelled with you two, without even having to think about it, that you're always going to be there? You know, regardless of what, you know, and now you're not going to be, so.
Yeah, I suppose gelled as in falling out with each other repeatedly, swearing at each other on a daily basis, and, you know, probably language I can't repeat on here. Butting heads constantly, you know, yin and yang all the time. Just, you have to try and balance things out. And but in the end, I've got ultimate respect. And that's what it's based out of, really.